And so it's not that we're abnormal for having those beliefs, but it's about what we do to overcome them that really makes the difference. Someone who, sits on their beliefs and someone who's successful despite those beliefs. First off, figure out what you're willing to sacrifice, because when it first comes to becoming an entrepreneur, there are some sacrifices that have to be made as far as where your time is going.
Greetings all, and welcome to Living Once Twice, the place where we rewrite narratives, reinvent ourselves, and reimagine our lives. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. But before we dive in, please be sure to subscribe, leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Also give us a follow on the Instagram at Living Once Twice, where you can find more great content and learn about all of this season's amazing guests, including the guest that I have on today, which is Brinya Bain. Brinya is a business and mindset coach based in Atlanta, Georgia, and the creator of From Crickets to Clients, where she helps coaching entrepreneurs discover their unique coaching it factor and create a successful coaching program that will attract their dream clients. You could follow her on her YouTube channel, sharing valuable insights and information related to personal development, maintaining a healthy mindset, life coaching, and helping entrepreneurs grow their business, and so much more. Brinya, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Justin. I'm doing great. How are you today?
Life is good. I'm really excited as we're kicking off a new year to have you on in particular, because giving the guest a little bit, or giving the audience a little bit of background, I met you back in early 2022 as I was starting to create my own online business, and you helped me especially overcome one of the key things we're going to talk about, which is mindset. This thing right in between our ears, because our brains, oftentimes we can use it against us, but you're going to really teach us how to use it for us. And so I just can't express enough appreciation and gratitude to you for helping me, especially when it came to like launching my wellness program and just overcoming a lot of my own limiting beliefs in this space. So thank you for your time in advance.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure, Justin. You're great as well. Just want to share that.
I appreciate that. So Brinya, let's talk, because there's so many different things I want to get into with you. Obviously, how can we manifest our dreams into realities this year? How do we, again, use our minds for us, not against us? And just other things that we can be mindful of as we're trying to overcome any limiting beliefs or mental struggles that we have. But where I want to start is, for folks not familiar with your journey, can you just walk us through and take us back on what gave you the courage to leap into the world and start your own online business?
Yeah. So when I first started my online business, I was working my 9 to 5. It was a very big girl 9 to 5. I was working for the court system here in Fulton County in Atlanta, and I was working as a behavioral health treatment compliance coordinator, or like court officer, basically. And so my background is in mental health, so I've always loved mental health and mindset. But what I didn't love as far as the job was the jail part. That made me really, really sad. And so I truly believe that I was fueled by my desire to help people to keep doing similar to what I was doing. But also, I was really fueled by my own desires. I'll be honest. It was my desires to leave my job. It was my desires to help people. And it was my desire to design a life that I really felt fulfilled by, because for the previous 6 years, maybe, I did not feel completely fulfilled with what I was doing. And so it was really connecting to what I wanted, which may sound selfish, but I do feel like it starts with us in the beginning. And so it was staying connected and trying to see how I could design a life where I was still connecting and helping, but where I was also being fulfilled as well.
I think what you shared is going to resonate with so many people, where they maybe are working a job that's not fulfilling to their own passion and their own heart. And so they're kind of in this space this year of thinking like, well, what's next? What do I want to do? Is it starting my own business? And something that really sticks out to me is like, your desire to change was greater than your desire to stay and to stay the same. And you use that momentum to, again, launch your own business. So walking us through kind of those early parts of that process, did you encounter any mindset challenges or even limiting of beliefs about yourself becoming a business owner, walking away from the security of a 9 to 5, that you had to overcome in that process?
Yeah. So there were a lot. One of the ones, as far as like me becoming a coach, I was, how old was I? maybe 26 when I became a coach, or when I started to become certified, 26, 27 maybe. And I felt like I was too young. When I was in my coaching class with CTA, I was like the youngest in that group. And so it was some of my fears around, can I be a life coach if I've only lived, 2 decades of life as opposed to someone who's in their 50s? So that was a limiting belief that I had. Another one was actually leaving my job and taking the leap. I actually hired a coach because I felt just so scrambled. What am I going to do with my retirement? What am I going to do with consistent income? Like, what am I going to do with all of these things? And I had clients coming in pretty regularly, but there was that fear of, can I really take the leap? Will this really work out for me? So those were two fears that I can think of right off the bat, where I was just like, I don't know if this is going to happen. And then the other one I would say is just really stepping into the role of like being on social media and showing my face. I was on YouTube, but just being on Instagram, where like my high school crushes, I always joke about that. A lot of high school crushes there, and like, my mom's friends and things like that. And so it felt a little bit weird with me showing that I was a coach in front of people who knew me from way before high school, college, when I was super shy and all of those things. So those are some of my struggles.
And thank you for being so just open and honest about this, because I feel like hearing you share how you struggled, and I think this could be a limiting belief for many people, of like, am I qualified to be a coach at 25 based on my life experience? Am I qualified to be a relationship coach, but I've got failed relationships?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like how did you overcome that feeling of like not, if you didn't feel qualified because of your age, because of, and again, someone's trying to go into a space where maybe they feel like because of past experiences, they don't think that they could show up or provide someone with coaching support, even though that's the audience that they want to work with and help.
Yeah. So I would say that it was once again connecting to my desires. And I feel like that's going to be a huge theme in mindset because, like you said before, when our desire to change or our desire for something different, it becomes bigger than our desire to please others, or, like people please really is a lot of what it is. And so when we focus in on our desires and what we want, but also focusing on just our belief in ourselves, I had like, when I look back at some of my videos, the audacity that I had to like make those videos and to do those things was just, I'm like in awe now of the audacity that I had. But that's what I really feel like it takes, is so much audacity, a true belief in yourself and connecting to that belief in yourself, and allowing that to be more important to you than what anyone else has to say. And once you get to that place, you're good to go.
And thank you for kind of helping draw this bridge of how people need to connect to their true desires. They need to kind of tune out the outside noise. But let's be honest about the reality of life. It's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to talk about how do people get back to connecting to their authentic self, Brinya, because one of the books I want to reference here that I know you and I have talked about is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson.
Yeah.
And he discusses how we have to get comfortable with the adversity of drilling down to what is important to us. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on, well, how does one this year start to get back to that, to drill down to what's important to them, what they desire, what they value, if maybe because of society, because of culture, because of other pressures, they've
Mhm.
gotten away from that, or they've adopted these kind of like outside values, or they really have unfortunately valued and put so much pressure on themselves because of what others are going to think. How do they get back to that authentic center of themselves?
Yeah, I love where this conversation is going. I love this topic of just reconnecting back to self, because it's something that I feel like is a part of the normal like human experience, where we go a couple of years maybe where we're more connected, and then we end up, I don't know why, but like falling off or getting disconnected, and then we have to like find our way back home again. And I think that phenomenon is so interesting because it's something that happened to me, and I've always been like an introvert. I've always been someone who I felt was really connected, but when I started doing this work and it, getting more exposure to the comparison traps in other people, I found that I was falling into that and had to reconnect. And so what I would say is journaling. Honestly, journaling really, really helps you connecting with a past version of you. So thinking about, what did I want maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago that I was really excited about, reconnecting to that, reconnecting to why you wanted that thing, reconnecting to who you were at that time, reconnecting to things that you've done in the past that you're really proud about. So kind of going backwards a little bit can help sometimes with getting connected, because the reality is, even if you're going back to childhood, I truly believe that when we were children, we were just free. We were free to do all the things. I was writing books when I was younger. I loved to like write short stories in my binder. And so I was like, I need to get back to writing. I loved music and playing my guitar and all of these things that I still love today. And so I really think that going back to the past, and I know sometimes that's not encouraged, but doing it in a, but yeah, just really reconnecting to who you are before you were bogged down by all of the noise of the world. And journaling can really help with that. So that's two parts of it. And then the third part I would say is asking yourself in the present questions. Am I staying true to myself? Am I staying true to my values, my desires, my beliefs? So that's another thing I would say to do while you're journaling as well.
A point you made so clear, and I agree with you, is like sometimes we do gotta quiet the noise, go backwards, take some time and reflect in order to help ourselves go forward. And what we will find is, again, that our authentic self, our authentic voice again, and we'll be able to connect with it. And it takes time and it takes work, and it's great that you as a coach can lead someone on that journey. And so here's what I'm wondering though. Okay, say that you've now discovered you've gotten to your authentic self, your values, you found kind of that desire and that fire again. But
Mm-hmm.
in something you've kind of touched on, say you want to go the route of starting your own business. Well, wait, what are my friends from high school, from college going to think of me? The people that know me, now
Yeah.
they're seeing someone who's an introvert, but I'm putting myself out here on YouTube. And that kind of starts to hold you back. So did you, again, like how would you help someone through that process of them now really feeling kind of this new, not new version of themselves, but unleashing this real, true, authentic version of themselves out into the world because they fear the judgment that might come from others because of people only know them, only know this certain version of themselves? Like, how do they kind of overcome that?
So there's a couple of ways. The first way is something that we kind of already mentioned, of allowing your voice to be heard louder than other voices. And that's something that takes a while to cultivate. Not going to be shy about that. It does take practice. But that's the first step I would say to take. And then the second thing I would say to take, step to take, is to create a safe space for yourself, especially when it comes to things like social media. So, what I think about when I say create a safe space for yourself is, let's say you are following all of these people on social media, you're seeing all of these things when you hop on there, it's not really making you feel great. Unfollow people who maybe you followed years ago. And it doesn't have to be people who you know. If you want to continue following them, just mute them. But find a way to disconnect from a lot of the noise. So something that I have done is I've unfollowed maybe coaches that are super successful, because I realized that I was like looking at them and expecting that of myself in my first 2 years of business. And that's just unrealistic. And so I unfollowed some coaches, but then kept up with some who I felt like I was resonating with. I didn't so much unfollow like friends and family from back home or anything, but I did mute some people who I felt like were posting a whole lot and things that I really didn't want to see. Another thing that I did was, and that I encourage as well, is to follow more people who encourage you and inspire you when you go on there. And then also, if you need to, get an entire new Instagram account. So it's really all about creating that safe space, like actually on social media. And then the second part I would say is rituals. So something that I do to change my mindset is through identifying what is the limiting belief and what are some rituals that I can pair to just really combat that limiting belief, like really attack it head on. And so let's say that I'm struggling with confidence, for example, which I oftentimes have and still do. What I'll do is I'll create rituals around improving my confidence. If it's something like showing up and recording a video, then I will read through a list of affirmations that make me feel more confident. I'll turn on Beyonce or some music that makes me feel confident. I'll call my mom and talk to her and ask her to tell me some things that will make me feel good. I will read through prior accomplishments that I've done that make me feel confident. And do I do those things every time? No, but I make sure to do them if I'm not feeling confident, because confidence is required for me to get to my dream goals. So I would say rituals as well, and creating a safe space, whatever that looks like for you, on those platforms.
Brinya, I love the science that you're starting to talk about here too, of ways that we have to actively reprogram our mind. And it's like, and maybe
Yeah.
I got this from you of like, okay, these old beliefs were programmed in there. We could reprogram them out. And so I guess like, what could you share more about just the science of the programming of our mind? It's like, yeah, we're not just stuck just because we're thinking this one way, whether it's limiting beliefs about ourselves, we're feeling like we're an imposter. It doesn't mean that we can't reprogram ourselves kind of outside of that. And again, use our mind to our benefit.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, a lot of our beliefs came from childhood and family dynamics, experiences that happened to us usually between the ages of 1 and 7 that just stick with us. So, if we maybe got bullied, or we had an event that happened at school, or maybe even something with our family that happened, those things do, unfortunately, psychology shows, tend to stick with us. And so I think that's really important to know, because sometimes we can think, and from a child's perspective, we don't recognize that all of these things happen, but we just end up kind of attaching, to those. And so I don't say that because it can't be changed. The reality is it can be changed, but a lot of it happens subconsciously. It doesn't always happen consciously. It happens subconsciously because those beliefs are subconscious. They're deeply rooted. And so, some of the ways that we combat that and reprogram our brain is to, number one, recognize some of the limiting beliefs that are there. But number two, we reprogram through things like visualization. And so, what that looks like is identifying where you want to be and having a very, very clear vision on where you want to be, and finding ways to bridge the gap from where you want to be, and from where you are and where you want to be. So that could look like through meditation, it could look like through scripting. And what we're doing to reprogram the mind on a subconscious level is we're kind of tricking the mind, because the subconscious brain doesn't know what is real and what is fake. So that's the beauty. That's a way that we can kind of use our brains to our advantage, is that the subconscious part, our conscious part is like, okay, I'm holding this cup. This is a cup. I got it. But our subconscious brain, let's say I'm imagining a cup and I can see the cup so clearly. Let's say I'm literally trying to imagine this cup. Our brain doesn't know whether or not that's real. And so, on a subconscious level, we can use that by repeating certain things, by doing affirmations, by visualizing ourselves as if we've already done it, to bridge that gap between the two. So, don't want to be too long winded about this, but I will say a great example of this is some days when I do want to film, when I do want to record, I'll literally lay in bed and I have different meditations that I do that have me visualize myself actively recording, visualize myself actively being an influencer, actively getting clients. So I literally visualize those things, because what happens if we're not connected is it'll seem too big. It'll seem too big for our brains. Our brains will kind of go in shock to try to protect us. But if we already trick our brains to feel as if it's already lived that experience and it's already been there, then our brains won't feel like it's as big of a deal when we're actually doing it. Does that make sense?
This makes perfect sense, and you could tell me if I'm going to kind of unpack it a little bit here, because we often will use our brain, as you're talking about like visualization, we'll often use it to ruminate about negative things that stand out to us. And like you mentioned too, that experience could have happened 10, 15 years ago, last week. And our brains don't know that, but our bodies will feel like if it's happening in the present day. But if what I hear you saying is like, we could kind of flip it on its script and we can use visualization, and maybe could talk a little bit more about what scripting is, but using visualization to see ourselves how we imagine whatever we're trying to manifest, and our brain doesn't know the difference. But
Right.
as we do that over time, very similar to how we'll ruminate about something of the past that's no longer happening in the present, we could kind of visualize something in the future and start just using universal forces in our own kind of putting in our own effort to create that sense and that feeling and that confidence in our brain we
Yes.
can indeed achieve that in the present and work towards that for our future.
Yes, 100%. 100%. I love that part of the brain.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I want to talk going back, Brittany, about the whole coaching aspect, because I know there's a lot of people who aspire to be coaches, and I appreciate you talking about how, yeah, you don't need to be a 50-year-old to become a life coach, and
Mhm,
helping people kind of rewrite that narrative. One
mhm.
aspect of it, I'm curious, 'cause I heard you talk about CTA, and I know what CTA is, but if you want to just fill
Yeah.
people in on what CTA is, because I can hear a lot of folks saying, well, I want to manifest being a coach this year. Do I need to go get a coaching certification? Is that what I need to become qualified? Like, any thoughts that you want to just share about that, and also again explaining what CTA is and your process of becoming a coach.
Yeah, yeah. So CTA is a Coach Training Alliance. It's a 6 month certification program, and it's the program that I took to become a life coach. And it was great. It was my first entrance to really learning the skills. I didn't realize this until later, but I'd already kind of been coaching through my just being like a group counselor and things like that, and meeting with my clients one on one. But when I first started, I really used my coaching certification program to give me an extra boost of confidence, honestly, is what I think it was for. Of being certified, of calling myself a coach, of meeting other coaches. And so yeah, it was my certification program. It allowed me to call myself a certified life coach, and it allowed me to have a mentor and things like that. So I would say for people who are like looking, for example, for a coaching certification, CTA is great. But what I would say more so that from that is, if you want to be a coach, find a program that is in alignment with you and your beliefs. So CTA is a little bit more general, I would say. It's very highly accredited, it's very respected. But I've also ran across some coaching certifications that were a little bit more niche, maybe just for mindset coaches, maybe just talking about those things. So I'd say just finding one that really resonates with you to get that boost of confidence in your coaching skills.
Yeah, and thanks for just kind of clearing that up. Of like, you can get a coaching certification to become certified, or if you wanted to add an additional boost of confidence to yourself. But there are so many coaches out there who don't have a certification, and their experience is equally as valuable. And is that something common, a common question you get, that you want to just
Oh,
debunk that misconception?
yeah, 100%. So that's like probably one of the top questions that new coaches ask me is, do I need to get certified? And I truly believe that getting certified is more so for the coach, honestly. I truly believe that than the client. And of course, you do learn some skills and things like that. But I believe that if you've been doing something for a significant amount of time, if you've been doing the work on yourself, and if you are committed to learning and growing as a coach, and practicing how to give value, that you do not need a coaching certification if you are doing the work. There's a difference, right? And so that's my belief. And I feel like that's helped a lot of people to free themselves from that idea, because a lot of the coaching certifications that I ran across when I was looking are really expensive. I think one of the ones that I was looking at was $12,000. And I knew that I was not going to be able to afford that right off the bat when I was working my 9 to 5. And so I was like, I can't do that. What do I do? So I did find one that was less affordable, but I would say what's more important is that coaches are doing the inner work, and that coaches are studying their craft, that they're really studying how to communicate, they're studying how to provide value, and they're studying how they are able to create a transformation for people. And so if you can do that alone, that's great. If you need help, go for it. But I don't think that it's absolutely required for every coach.
And I like what you were hitting on there too, of the you got put in the work still. Like, we can manifest, we can journal, we can dream, but the rubber still has to hit the road. And so I want to kind of talk about that. There's a quote that I love for you, because you talk so openly about your own journey, the pursuit of your goal, how there's going to be valleys a part of it. And so there's this quote that I've heard you share from the book Everything is Figure Outable, from Marie Forleo, which is, I win, or I learn, but I never lose.
Yeah.
So I guess, what would you offer to the person who's like, okay, who started this process of manifesting? Maybe it's an online business they want to start, when they want to become a coach,
Mm-hmm.
and they're at a point now in the journey where they're like, wait, I've only got like 2 likes on my post, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
not getting any clients quite yet, and now they want to give up. Like, what would
Yeah.
you offer to them about just the mentality that they need to cultivate to understand that success is a process and you have to keep going even if you're not seeing the results right away.
Yeah, yeah. So first, I would encourage them to commit to the long game. So whatever that looks like for them, if that looks like keeping their job for a little bit longer, if that looks like moving to a job that maybe they feel happier at, but it's still not quite where they want to be, I would encourage them to either be in it for the long haul or don't be in it at all. That's what I would realistically say to this person. Because the reality is, when we are thinking about it in such a way that we're kind of like wanting that immediate gratification and that immediate success, then it corrupts our bigger mission, or it's corruptive to us wanting to help people, to us wanting to hold space for people, things like that, you know what I mean? And so I would say to think of it as a long game, focus on how they want to help other people. Um, another thing I would say is focus on their creativity. So focus on just building their craft, building their skills. Hey, if you got 2 likes, let's try to get 5 next time by figuring out what we could say to get more people engaged, or what we could do to get more people engaged. Maybe that looks like telling your Facebook about, the fact that you are putting up a post and I would really love to see some likes. So move in small incremental steps and just continue to do the work. Look at the long game of it. And then also focus on creatively getting better at what it is that you're doing. And I know that that's tough because we all love immediate gratification. Who doesn't? We all love to get recognized for our work. Recognition is something that I kind of hold as a value. So I get it. It's something that I love, honestly, just speaking. And so I get that. But it has to start with us. And so a little bit of tough love here is don't feel entitled to having hundreds and hundreds of people watching you when you're just starting out. Because honestly, you haven't earned it yet. You haven't earned it yet. Keep working, and it will happen. But you have to first become the person that makes it happen and that learns how to make it happen. So that's what I would say to that person.
Mm. Well, thank you for highlighting these important reminders about the long game, about just continuing to stick to your grind, stick to your craft, because eventually the universe will bend for you.
Yeah,
And one of the mindsets you had to help me over, and I would love to kind of dive into this, is when you become a business owner, you also have to get comfortable with like charging for your services.
yeah.
And so I would love to hear, like, did you encounter any limiting beliefs or just kind of mindset challenges or hurdles when it came to like charging people and feeling comfortable doing that? And I would love to hear again, like, how did you overcome that, and how would you help people to overcome that?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I did. My first client that I worked with was for free. And so it was beta client, which is what I encourage a lot of people to do, a lot of new coaches to do when they're first getting that experience, to get comfortable with coaching, get comfortable, being the coach, having the client. So my first client was beta free. And then for my next couple of clients, I was like, okay, I know I want to charge something, but I don't know what I want to charge. So I ended up charging $597, around $600, and that was for 8 weeks of coaching. And so for me, it was incremental, and then I went up to 2,000, and I went up for more. So for me, it was incremental, and I think that when new coaches sometimes shock their system by trying to charge, a bigger number straight off, that does work for some people, but for some people it doesn't. And so meet yourself where you are, I would say, if someone's struggling with pricing. Another thing I would say is two things is working on our money mindset. So when we talk about identifying a limiting belief and then combating it head on, that's where we're like, okay, I see that I have a certain limiting belief, or a belief that is, holding me back about charging. Let me think of some rituals that I can, use to approach that limiting belief and work on that limiting belief. And then the third thing I would say is it doesn't really have to be like a super slow process to get from, free to get having someone pay you a larger amount of money. Even just charging 600 for 2 weeks could work for someone. Let me just kind of fill around, get a couple of clients at this, and then next time I know I'll have the testimonials, I have the experience of charging. I'll create a new part of my program or revamp my program from what I've learned to get it to that 2,000 level or higher.
These are all great reframes for people to understand. And I can't. For me, it goes back to something you said. Like, you're helping someone. You're providing service to help someone. Like, you deserve it. You deserve that support and compensation for the service that you are providing and how important that is. Because yes, it's easy to get caught up in the, well, should I charge? Should I charge for free? Should I start discounting people?
Oh,
Like, do you run into any of those kind of situations with some of the clients that you work with where they're like, well, should I discount this person, or I know them, or any tips for any like common tips that you see new business owners, new coaches run into that you want them to, like, hey, just be aware about this. This is a very common thing,
yeah.
but you don't need to go this route or fall into this pitfall.
I feel like money objectives are one of the big, I mean, money objections are one of the biggest objections that probably any business owner is going to get, especially starting off. But especially because money is something that we all understand, right? So if someone just, if you're the coach and there's a prospect and they're just like, I can't afford it right now, that's something that everyone understands. And what I would say is be prepared for the objection, build in ways that people can still work with you from different price points. You know what I mean? So every client is not going to be your one-on-one signature program client. Some clients are just going to want a consultation call or 1 month to start off, and then maybe they'll, keep going with you. So build in different tiers as much as you can. And then also just be prepared for it. Don't take it personally, because it's not about you. It's really about them, whether or not they have the money. Really, it's really about that person. And so it's up to them to work through. Now, as a coach, this is a more advanced thing I would say, but it's like you can help them work through that objection because it may be just fear. So you can also learn that as well. Another thing I would say is definitely, like you said, focusing on the service of it. And so the reality is, when someone gets something for free, we don't value it as much as if we pay a certain amount of money for it, especially if it's something that we've saved for, or if it's money that, if it's thousands of dollars, especially. So it has your client to put more skin in the game, number one. And then also you feel more compensated for the work that you're doing. So it's really an exchange of energy that's happening when it comes to money that is important to note. Because once again, if someone doesn't make that exchange, their energy is going to be lower. The energy that they put into it. And even when I was charging that lower at the 597 level, my clients were honestly different. I had a client that abandoned her sessions, honestly, with like 3 or 4 sessions to go. That would never happen if someone is paying, a certain amount of money. So it really, and it was because she said it was a family emergency, but I've had clients to get pregnant and who, they obviously have different, what is it called? Different priorities. But what happens is they're like, hey, I don't want to lose these sessions. How can I still make this happen? So it's a different energy when it comes to charging that you can tap into by charging. So that's something that is important to note. And then also knowing that you are providing a service and that you deserve to be compensated for your time, for your energy, and for the work that you've done. If you have sat and spent days, weeks, months on cultivating a program, you deserve to be compensated on that. If you've invested in a coaching program or several coaching programs, if you have, just put your time and your heart into this, you deserve to be compensated. If you're practicing your skill and getting better, you deserve to be compensated for that. So it's also tapping into that part as well, and feeling that worthiness of it as well is important.
Oh, Brittany, this is so rich what you're sharing here, and folks, just transparently, I went through this, and Brinya had to kind of work coach me through it because you feel guilty, and then there's all these other dynamics that come out to play and just come to the surface. And working
Yeah,
with the coach, working with someone like Brinya can really kind of help guide you through it. And this is where it goes. This is why it's so important to have a conversation about when we want to manifest, working on our mindset first to help
yeah,
us overcome any of these like limiting beliefs or just things from the past that we need to reprogram out of us that are really holding us back from creating that reality, that dream reality that we all deserve and are shooting for.
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
So,
because if we don't do those.
go for it. I don't want to cut you off. Go for it.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was just saying, because if we don't do that work, then it will just try to stop us every step of the way. And it happens to everyone where those limiting beliefs come up at every single phase of it, right? It happens for Lady Gaga, Oprah. I've heard quotes of all of them who deal with, self doubts. And so it's not that we're abnormal for having those beliefs, but it's about what we do to overcome them that really makes the difference between someone who, sits on their beliefs and someone who's successful despite those beliefs.
And then with respect to that, before we go into the each one teach one, I want to talk about this the whole aspect of like self-care and balance, because for some folks they're like, okay, I would love to quit my job and just start something full time, but actually I know I need to do it incrementally. I need to kind of take my 9 to 5 and then from 5 to 9 work on my side hustle. But the hesitation in them comes is, I don't know if I can balance that. I don't know if I can, if self-care wise or just time wise or energy wise I can balance that. And so I
Yeah.
guess before we wrap, I would love to hear like any thoughts or tips you have for someone who's worried about how would I balance being an online business owner while still working my 9 to 5 until I get into a place where maybe I could transition out, or maybe they do want to do both, but they're just worried about the reality of if they could truly balance it all.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say tap into, first off, figure out what you're willing to sacrifice, because when it first comes to becoming an entrepreneur, there are some sacrifices that have to be made as far as where your time is going. So let's say that you're like, for me, one of my biggest sacrifices was I love to stay on the phone. I love to talk, Justin. So I love to stay on the phone for hours at a time, talking to family members, talking to friends. And so for me, it was a sacrifice that I have to tell them, no, I can't. And I have to also get off the phone to say that I have to spend this time, elsewhere. I can't go out because I need to spend this time here. So find areas where you are willing to sacrifice. And does that mean you never go out? No, but maybe it means that you keep going out to just Saturdays, for example. And so figure out what that looks like for you as far as pulling time from other things that you're giving it now and rededicating it to your craft. So that might even mean waking up a little bit earlier, losing out on a little bit of sleep, or even going to bed earlier. I remember when I first started my business, I really implemented something called Power Hour. Had a full-time 40-plus hour job and really, wanted to start my business. And so what I did was, instead of coming home and sitting on the couch and having dinner for the rest of the night, I ended up saying, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come home, put on different clothes, take my dog out so he's already done, and I'm going to make a coffee, which, yikes, I was drinking coffee at like 7 p.m., but it would keep me up and keep me energized to work on my business for 1 to 2 hours every single night. And so what that did for me was it wasn't like a huge leap, but it allowed me to just work on things, work on things, work on things every single day. And before you know it, all of those things are combining up into something really beautiful. And so that gave me that first ability to get my first client. I joined a program during that time that helped me. I started posting on Instagram. I got more serious about YouTube in those little snippets per day. And so if you can find even 1 hour a day and really be intentional about what you're spending that hour on, plan it out, that can really make all the difference for you and your business.
Brinya, that is gold to leave folks with. 1 power hour a day, or you folks can decide if they can do it a couple days a week. But
Mm-hmm.
the that momentum of going brick by brick, to your point, will add up over time. And so I think that's really great for you to leave people with, and how they can apply that to business, their mindset, finances, fitness, whatever it is that one dedicated hour to like working on that thing, and that momentum will continue to carry on. So
Yeah.
last part I want to get to is our each one teach one rapid fire question for you, Brinya. So the first question that I have for you is, what is one book or podcast that you would recommend that's been a game changer for you in your journey?
Oh, so I will say I have to go recent because they've really left an impact. So everything is figure outable. You mentioned it earlier. That was one that really just gave me that confidence and kick in the butt. Can I say two? Sorry.
Oh, of course you can. Of course you can.
Another one was Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, and it was about creativity, and it gave me a different sense of looking at my creativity, even as an entrepreneur, from a more holistic point of view. So big
No,
meditation.
those are two great authors and recommendations there. So thank you for that. So
Mm-hmm.
the next one is, could you talk a little bit about some of this? So what are some like what's one habit or practice, and you can give two if you want, but that has been very effective for you and impactful for you in your lifestyle design?
Meditation, 100%. Meditation has been the game changer because I call it a little vacation for the mind. It allows me to kind of shut out everything else, even the rumination, and it allows me to really hone in on what's going on, what do I need, and to practice some of those mindset techniques that we've been talking about. So meditation, 100%.
Terrific. That's a pillar on this show. A lot of people making time
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
So the next one is, what's a law or a policy that you would make that we would all need to abide by?
I'll say, let's say, don't give up on your dreams. If I had to create a law, it'd be don't give up on your dreams because there's so many amazing people who have such amazing dreams, people who want to start nonprofits and do all these healing things for the world. And if they didn't give up, I think the world would be a much better place.
That one hits hard because it's we live in a world where some people, because, and this is the importance of mindset, will take their music to the grave with them, and
Yeah,
so it's really important to not do that and to work on yourself and making things that are true to your desires come true.
yes.
So the final question for you, Brinya, this is the question we're asking all of our guests. Since this season's all about personal responsibility, what's one lesson about taking ownership of your life that was important for you to learn in order to become who you are today?
Ooh, specifically about taking ownership of my life. That no one's going to do it for me. No one's coming to save me. If I want this, then I got to do it for myself. That was a big one for me because you can tell people your dreams and your goals, but no one's going to be as excited as you are about it until, of course, after they see you successful, then people will come and they'll be like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing, right? But in the beginning, it's really just you versus you. It's just that us doing it, that grind of us making it happen for ourselves.
Terrific. So finally, what's next for you, and where can people go to learn more and find out more about you, Brinya, and your services?
Yeah. So, what's next for me is definitely honing in on my mindset coaching program. So, as you know, I've been a business coach for so long, and although mindset has been a big part of what I do in business, I want to really help people to focus on that mindset part. So, I've created the mindset coaching program, and just kind of developing, all of that. So it's blowing up that mindset coaching program and just continuing to know that authenticity wins. And so just continuing to stay true to myself in the process.
Awesome. And where can people go to find out about your coaching programs and just your YouTube channel and everything?
Yeah, so they can go to brinyabain.com to find it. You can also find me on YouTube. My YouTube name is just Brinya, so it's not too hard to find. Brinya. And feel free to email me, anytime just to ask questions or anything like that. That's going to be at hello@brinyabain.com.
Wonderful. And I'll be sure to conclude all that in the show notes. So as we get to wrap up, Brittany, I want to thank you for your time helping us really to kick off this year and really any year, right, in terms of using the power of our mind to manifest the reality that we truly desire, looking at different ways that we could overcome some of those limiting beliefs and mental hurdles that we all need to overcome. And just, you kind of hit on it, like taking ownership of our lives. No one is coming to save us but us. And it's really important for us to understand that and know that, yeah, that dream life that we envision, the goals that we want, it's really up to us in doing the work. And you gave us a lot of different tools and ways that we can move forward in that. So thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So folks, that is it for today's show. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to share the Living Once Twice podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, or leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and also YouTube. Reaching out to you all through the time and the space that separates us to say, remember, your dream life is waiting for you. It's time to go for it. You deserve it. Catch you later on Living Once Twice.